Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Huddersfield Planning Subcommittee meeting. It's the district. Yes, thank you very much, Teresa. Well done. There's going to be a little announcement at the end of the meeting, so if members can just stay literally for 5 minutes, that'd be really helpful. Item number 1, then, a membership of the committee. Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Lawson substituting for Councillor Andrew Marchington. Thank you.
Councillor McGrath is on his way. I think he might be stuck in traffic.
Okay, then item number 2, minutes of the previous meeting. Thank you. Item number 3, declarations of interest and lobbying. Charles?
Yeah. Miss, yeah, I had some couple of emails from the objectors. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've just had one email from an objector, which I acknowledged. No advice given.
Yeah, I've had 3 emails, no action taken, I put them on the sheet.
Yeah, item 2022-92210, I've had a few emails from objectors. No action taken.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. As substitute, I seem to have missed all the lobbying, so no lobbying.
Thank you.
2 emails from
You. I myself have had 3 emails from objectors, no response provided. Item number 4, admission of the public.
There's no private items, Chair.
Item number 5, public question time.
No questions.
Thank you. Item number 6, deputations and petitions.
None received.
Okay, item number 7, just to confirm, there was 1 site visit on this agenda and we attended. Okay, and then we're up to the first application then, page number 9, application for outlined residential development, 5 to 7 Oaks Lane, Brockholes.
Thank you, Chair. My name is William Simcock and I'm the case officer for this application. The site comprises a plot of land on the northern side of Oaks Lane. It slopes steeply from east to west and also slopes downwards to the northern end of the site where it is bounded by a watercourse, an open watercourse that becomes culverted near the western border. The site is located near the edge of the built-up part of Brockholes village. The proposal is an outline application for the erection of 5 dwellings and associated works. It is being considered as the principal development plus details of access, scale, layout and appearance. As shown on this the site proposed layout plan here, a new access road leading to a turning head will be formed from Oaks Lane, leading to the northern end of the site, and the dwellings will be situated to the east of the access road and would be in the form of a row of 3 townhouses, which would be 3-storey at the front and 2-storey at the rear. And the site, just to run through some of the runs through some of the constraints. The site is within a strategic green infrastructure network. This designation does not imply there's a presumption against new housing development, subject to it maintaining the function and connectivity of the network. The proposal has attracted a large number of local objections, and there are certain factors it is recognised, such as the site's topography, which present challenges to development, and these I shall return to shortly. It is also noted that there is a public right-of-way at one side of the site connecting with Oaks Lane. And the proposal has undergone many revisions. The first of these is that officers determined that the application could not be assessed solely as a principle of development plus access, but also details of scale, layout and appearance were also necessary in order for a full assessment to be undertaken. These have been submitted.
Sorry, everybody. We're having a few technical issues here, so we are going to go for a very short pause until we can fix it, and we'll hopefully come back. Is that all right, William?
Yeah, I think I've got it to work again now, Chair. Yes.
Okay.
I've got.
We
yes.
won't be going for a very short pause. We'll be carrying on.
Yes, my apologies. Yes, this is the full set of elevational drawings which can be seen. Now, the plots 1, 2 and 3, which are closer to the southern end of the site, and this is the rear elevation. And these are the other two, which are two-storey throughout and situated closer to the north. Now, so the full set of details of scale, layout and appearance were supplied. And also subsequent revisions included a revised drainage assessment, modification to road layout and junction design, and the reduction in number of units from 7 to 5. These are some images of the site viewing from the highway and from within the site, looking back towards number 5 and number 7, and view across the site towards number 9, and alternative view down towards the northern end, and view from public footpath, and again looking back up towards number 5 and number 7. Now, the site occupies a position close to the built-up edge of Brockholes, and housing density and design is quite variable in the local area. As it says in the report, in the immediate vicinity of the site, it is mostly relatively low density, but there is high density development in other parts of Brockholes, and in the other older parts of the village, and even in some parts of Brockholes quite close to its edge. The proposed dwellings and associated works would be built on land that's presently undeveloped, and from some viewpoints would present an undeveloped aspect. As such, it's very important that the scheme is designed not to introduce a very excessive scale or density of development into the area. And for these reasons, it was revised so that the junction, the turning heads, could be switched around to the right. This presents a somewhat less engineered appearance. There will necessarily be quite a high retaining wall here, of about 2.5 to 3 metres in height, but this layout does represent an improvement. The number of units has been reduced, the quantum of development, and it is the net density at 40 units per hectare is considered efficient and appropriate for the area. The detailed design is also considered appropriate and in keeping with the local house types. The frontages are not dominated by car parking, or they have car parking in the frontage, but some landscaping as well. And some land within the site would be retained as open space. This banking here leading up to the retaining wall. This would not be public open space, but would be intended to be landscaping and of semi-natural appearance. It is considered that this would not result in the loss or degradation of any features of the local landscape as set out in Home Valley Parish Council's landscape character assessment, or result in the loss of distant views. Moving on to the question of residential amenity, the minimum distances, recommended minimum distance in Principle 6 of the House Builders Design Guide are taken as a starting point. However, paragraph 720 of that document states that there are several design solutions that will allow for reduced distances between buildings, including the angles of facing elevations and the orientation of the buildings, and the size, angle and design of upper storey windows to minimise overlooking, including offset windows, and giving consideration to the advice set out in Principle 14, including the internal layout of dwellings. In this case, in most respects, the new dwellings will fully comply with the recommended minimum distances in that the main aspects to the front and rear, they would comply with the recommended 21 metre standoff distance. It is noted that in relation to number 7 Oaks Lane, they will be, well, particularly plot 1 and 2, and especially plot 1 will be closer. That distances from between a new window, new bedroom window in plot 1 and an existing clear glazed window in number 7 here would be as little as 11.5 metres. The angle between the two means they would in effect be looking across rather than at each other, and furthermore the new dwelling would be a full storey lower. In the rear garden, ground levels would be somewhat reduced from present levels, and details of this can be submitted as part of the landscaping scheme. On the original layout, plot 1 would have been somewhat closer, and the relationship would have been intrusive, and even with the present layout, it might have been considered unacceptable if both properties were the same height relative to each other, but again, plot 1 is a lot lower. And it is considered with the revision shown, and whilst possibly still a finely balanced case, it is considered that no material loss of privacy would occur to existing occupiers. The floor space within the new dwellings is of an acceptable level and meets with the nationally described space standards. It is considered that they would receive adequate natural light, and the gardens are acceptable in terms of size and usability. It is therefore concluded that the design of the proposed development would allow future residents to enjoy a good standard of amenity, and the scale, siting and orientation of the new dwellings, subject to the net reduction in ground levels within the rear of plot 1, would avoid giving rise to any material loss of privacy or overbearing impact on existing residential properties. Moving on to the highway safety issues, an access statement has been submitted. It is considered that Oaks Lane is of a sufficient standard to absorb the traffic generated by the development. Visibility displays, as indicated on the access statement, do not take into account the steep gradient, and especially it being close to the brow of the hill. However, the highways officer and myself, the case officer, did undertake a joint site visit, and we were able to verify that the required sight line of 36 metres based on the speed survey would be achieved at is to east of the access. The internal access road we put in would not be to adoptable standard, but it is considered that it is of a sufficient standard to take on traffic arising from the development. And refuse collection would be undertaken from the curbside, so refuse collection vehicles wouldn't have to enter the site, and a bin collection point has been shown at an appropriate distance in from the public highway. And the parking, both in terms of number of spaces and layout and size, meets current minimum standards. The public right-of-way would not be directly affected. It would be retained on its present course, and it has been recommended as a condition of granting planning permission that the it should be shown as part of the landscaping scheme that it's a minimum of 1.2 metres throughout its length. 1.2 metres width is, in fact, its stated width on the definitive map statement. I will emphasise that there is no evidence that either the developer or that the applicant, that is, or the previous owner of the land has any way encroached on the public right-of-way. However, the fact that as the condition will ensure that it is 1.2 metres when completed, and that furthermore that details of any new boundary treatments or fencing need to be supplied, this could be considered a small improvement. Quite large retaining walls will be required, as previously stated, and these would of course be subject to the standard conditions on a technical design approval in the interest of stability. I'd also make the observation at this point that development on this site has been refused once before. The Inspector's Appeal Decision letter for this application, the 2001 application, concluded that intervisibility for the development then proposed, 3 dwellings, would be inadequate. This was, however, on the basis that sightlines of 2 metres by 70 metres would be required, which would be in accordance with the guidance document in force at the time, Design Bulletin 32. Furthermore, 5 Oaks Lane itself was not in the application site, so the applicant's ability to provide sightlines and ensure their retention would have been much more limited. It's therefore considered that the circumstances and policy context that led to the refusal of application 2001-90381 were materially different from those that existed, had been refused, that is, and would not provide a precedent for refusing the current application. While I'm on the subject of the 2001 application, the other 2 reasons were that it was a greenfield site, which of course would not be a valid reason for refusal at the present time, since there's no presumption against development of greenfield sites before brownfield ones, and it would also be an inefficient use of land, being less than 30 dwellings per hectare, which this has a greater density than that. Now, to conclude this section, Highways Development Management did raise several concerns about the plans as originally submitted, owing to lack of detail and clarity concerning parking arrangements, how the new junction would interact with the public right-of-way, and general layout, falling short of adoptable standards, all of which have been satisfactorily addressed by the submission of amended additional plans. The proposal is now considered to comply with the aims of local plan policies and Home Valley policies concerning highway safety. And it is therefore recommended that outline permission can be granted subject to the conditions as set out in the report. In particular, I would note that one change that's been made in the process is that the junction, the line of the junction under the original version would have cut across the line of the public right-of-way, leading to possible pedestrian vehicle conflicts, and this is no longer the case. The path taken by vehicles and that taken by pedestrians would be separate. The drainage is also another factor that has needed careful consideration. The site is not within flood zone 2 or 3, but there is a small area within the site near this corner which is considered liable to flood. This is the source of the flooding is the watercourse, and this is likely to occur when the culverts can't discharge water quickly enough in heavy rainfall events. This can be exacerbated by blocking at the entrance to the culvert where there is a trash screen. For the reasons set out in detail in the report, the development now proposed would not make these problems worse. It would not result in the new houses being vulnerable to flooding, nor would it displace flooding and make it worse at locations outside the site. Indeed, it could even be a net improvement, as it could be achieved by condition and through the applicant entering into a Section 106 agreement, that there would be a management plan in place for the drainage infrastructure, that is the flood attenuation storage, and for the installation and maintenance of an improved trash screen to prevent blocking of the culvert. The climate change objectives initially highlighted as a concern by Home Valley Parish Council have been addressed. It is noted that the new houses would be given a solar array, which can be seen on the southeast elevations. There is coal mining legacy, which was a concern raised early in the process, and following the submission of coal mining risk assessment, the Coal Authority and officers are satisfied it's capable of being developed and subject to conditions. There are no grounds for believing the site itself to be contaminated. Landfill gas migration from a closed landfill site within 250 metres of the site could still occur. This was highlighted by Environmental Health as not being addressed in the Phase 1 contamination report, but is considered that an appropriate response would be to impose a pre-commencement condition. The ecology issues, the site is not within the Wildlife Habitat Network, which lies about 30 metres to the northeast. The preliminary environmental assessment, ecological assessment has been submitted, which finds the site to have moderate ecological value. And some small trees and shrubs will be lost. It's not completely clear from the plans whether this row of small silver birch trees will be retained or not. That's something that it's possible that the applicants could advise us on. And a landscape and ecological management plan is recommended, should be conditioned to ensure that there is measurable habitat improvements. As well as further conditions that's been recommended by the council ecologist. I would emphasise here that the application submitted before the Environment Act and subsequent guidance, which made the 10% biodiversity net gain mandatory for all new built development, but it should still, all development should seek to enhance the biodiversity of the site in as far as is reasonably practicable. Section 106 agreements, which I mentioned earlier, it is recommended that approval be delegated and subject to the completion of the list of conditions and the securing of a Section 106 agreement covering the establishment of a management company and management plan to ensure that surface water drainage infrastructure is carried out in a satisfactory manner, and also for the future management and maintenance of semi-natural open space within the site, which will be the subject of a landscape and ecological management plan as well. So, to conclude, officers recommend conditional outline permission can be granted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, William. The first speaker is the agent, Nick Willock. Good afternoon, Nick. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee. My name is Nick Willock, planning agent for this case. This infill site is within a sustainable urban location in easy walking distance of local shops, Brockhole School and regular bus and train services. We worked in full cooperation with your officers to reduce the scheme from 7 to 5 houses, change other aspects of the design and layout and provide additional information when requested. With regard to the comments raised about highway safety from local residents, a professional speed survey was carried out to demonstrate that average speeds on this road are 25 miles per hour, with many cars observed to be travelling at 20 miles per hour or less. And this is because Oaks Lane is not a road where drivers would naturally speed. It is a quiet residential road where access is only needed to the housing beyond, and therefore the visibility displays provided are suitable and will ensure the proposed access is safe. It is also agreed that this small number of additional houses would not materially impact on volumes of traffic on Oaks Lane. Only 4 trips during peak hours are predicted for these 5 new houses, either in or out. That's only 1 car movement every 15 minutes in the peak hour, and much less outside those peak hours. In fact, anecdotally, we counted the number of vehicles passing the proposed site entrance while the site visit occurred this morning, and it was only 21 cars in 27 minutes. That's 1 car every 78 seconds, which is extremely low. Furthermore, whilst there is talk of the proximity of the access to the footpath used by some parents and children at school times, I have to inform the committee that my client's family gifted this path to the local community some years ago, and so its very existence is a bonus, not a problem. Because Oaks Lane acts as an overspill pick-up and drop-off area compared to the more constrained Brockholes Lane, where the school is actually located. Indeed, children from the proposed houses will also be able to use this path to walk safely to and from school every day in future. Your officers have confirmed that there will be no safety risk to users of this footpath, and there is now agreement in place to widen this path at the identified pinch point. In summary, this application would provide a much-needed small development of 5 dwellings, which will help contribute towards the Council's chronic undersupply of housing and also help prevent the equivalent area of Greenbelt land being needed in the forthcoming local plan review. The Home Valley Neighbourhood Plan also supports housing located on non-Greenbelt sites within existing settlements. We would therefore like to endorse your Planning and Highways Officer's recommendation to grant outline planning permission in this case. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Second speaker, Councillor Charles Greaves. Hi, Charles.
Thank you, Chair. So there's 2 points where I think the decision is in the balance. One of those is the 3-storey aspect, which is covered in 1017, and the other element is the distances between the properties, which is covered in 1030. So this site is right in the heart of Brockles. It's quite a visible site, not just from Oaks Lane and the footpath, but from Brockles Lane, which is the other side. In respect of the 3-storey element, actually this part of Brockles is characterised more by bungalows. The cutting is located much further up the road, tucked away on the right-hand side. The distances between the windows, as is noted in the report, doesn't meet the standard. But I think the proposal's come a long way since it first came back to us, was it 2 years ago? They've dropped from 7 to 5. They've looked to make improvements to that prow, the highways issues being addressed. So I think a little bit further and we will end up with something that will be acceptable all round. And on that, I would ask that the committee defer approval and ask for those 3-storey properties to be changed to a 2-storey property and for that distance that's within our standards to be achieved. And I think that can all be done by reducing from 5 units to 4 units. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greaves. We have no more speakers, so it's over to the committee for your comments. Anybody? Councillor Sokol and then Councillor Bellamy.
Yeah. Can I ask about this open space? Yeah. You say on the first page, yeah, future management and maintenance of open, semi-natural. I never heard before. Yeah. It says semi-natural open space. Can you tell me where it will be located? It will be located somewhere safe where the children can play safely, or is not dumping in somewhere on the one corner? So that's what I want to know. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sokol. William will be looking up and I'm sure he'll get us that. We'll go to Councillor Donna Bellamy next.
Thank you, Chair. I have got some concerns with this one. I'm getting echo now. Topography, the distances. I actually agree with what Councillor Greaves said. Maybe if it could be reduced, we might get them distances in. I'm also not happy about them being 3 storeys. A lot of the houses around there at the most are 2 storeys, unless you go right up to the cutting, or bungalows. So I do think they will look very much out of place. That public footpath is extremely busy, and you do get cars parked on Oaks Lane because they drop the kids there because they can't park round by the school. So they do. There's a lot of parked cars there in the morning at school times. I understand that there could be improvements to the footpath, which I think is probably a good thing. I also have concerns with what Councillor Sokol's brought up about that bit of open space and wildflower gardeny thing, whatever. Who's going to be responsible for that? Is it just going to turn into a mess? So at the moment, I'm not convinced, and I probably would look at maybe deferring and going back and getting a bit more information.
Thank you, Councillor Bellamy. Councillor Lawson, I think you went, yeah, Councillor McGrath and then Lawson.
Even if it goes ahead now and it goes again, that's what I mean.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McGrath. Councillor Lawson and then Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's notable just how much work the developers have done on this to address some of the problems that have arisen in the past, and to address those problems that were at the forefront in the original appeal. Because that's one of the first things that I was thinking about was, well, why was it refused in the first place, and what were the reasons? And I think changes of circumstances and steps that the developer has taken are all welcome, and I think we shouldn't underestimate that amount of work that's happened. That said, I do still have issues about the dominance of these two blocks, and that being at odds with the Home Valley development specifications, their own plan. And I'd just like to think about just how those two are at odds with each other. Again, with Councillor Sokol's analysis of the maintenance of the green area, that could possibly be conditioned. I couldn't see it unless it's in the standard conditions. I didn't get it on those glances. So maybe there's we often set up a company, don't we, for that kind of maintenance. So yes, the 3 stories, the maintenance area, the dominance of those buildings and the site. I'm uncomfortable with backing those at the moment, but I'll see what officers have to say when you come back in, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Councillor Firth and then Councillor Homewood.
Thank you, Chair. I've listened closely to what colleagues and the officers said. And of course, I was there on the site visit this morning. And I realise it's a difficult site to develop. But I think you clearly can see the work that the developers have put into this and planning it quite cleverly. So I think it's an innovative use of a very difficult site. I think just about all the angles have been covered. And I particularly like the when it says the materials will be sought locally, I'm presuming all stone. Solar PV is to be fitted. The standard of insulation is really high from what I read. And I think it's a pretty good development on a tight spot. And I will move the officer recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Firth. So it's been moved by Councillor Eric Firth, officer's recommendation to approve. Councillor Homewood.
Yeah, just a sort of question comment based on other comments that were made. So on the 3-storey properties, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the diagrams and stuff correctly, but I'm just trying to understand is what's the benefit of having a 2-storey property? Because isn't it's sort of dug in, so presumably the ground floor is just the utility and garage that doesn't require any natural light necessarily coming in. I presume you wouldn't, would you, if you had a 2-storey property, would you actually be achieving a lower height overall, is what I'm trying to say in terms of prominence. I don't know if I'm understanding that correctly, or whether you're just taking away the garage essentially for no particular purpose.
Through you, Chair. It's a split-level dwelling at the moment, so it's 3 storeys at the front and 2 storeys at the back. It's not unusual to have split-level dwellings that are 2 storeys at the front and a single storey at the back. You still can mix the accommodation between floors.
I suppose what I'm getting at is if you had, as someone suggested, if you made it 2 storeys, would you be able to do that because you wouldn't have habitable rooms on the ground floor? Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding that?
You could design a property with habitable rooms on the ground floor.
And they would have enough light and...
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Donna Bellamy.
Thank you, Chair. Can I move deferral, please, so this can be looked at? And also, if for any reason it is likely to go through, I think we need to see a construction management plan before.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Councillor Firth to approve officer's recommendation. It's been moved by Councillor Bellamy for deferral. Councillor Homewood.
I'll second Councillor Firth to move approval.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder for officer's recommendation to approve. Councillor Safdar has seconded Councillor Bellamy for deferral. So we will move to the vote. We are voting to approve the officer's recommendation, as that came first. Councillor Sokol.
For.
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 Against deferral. Yeah.
Against?
Against.
Against.
I think it's, yeah, so mine would be for officer's recommendation to approve.
That would give you a casting vote, Chair.
Yeah. My casting vote would be for, yeah, to approve.
Which would, right, so the application's approved.
Yeah, so the application has been approved. Thank you. That's the end of the meeting.